In this video, I'll explain the first digital SAT test officially released from the College Board. In addition to explaining every question in this test, I'll also mention the topic examined by each question so that you can go back to Vanderbilt or Princeton or my YouTube channel to revise these topics. So let's start with the first question. The first question says, what is 10% of 470? You'll take the percentage he asks you to find and divide it by 100. And then you will multiply it by the value given, which is 470. So 10 over 100 multiplied 470 is equal to 47. So the answer is B. And this question is examining the percentage chapter. Now what about the second question? Which equation has the same solution as the given equation? So first let's have a look at the choices. Realize that all the choices are solved for 4x, right? All of them are solved for 4x. So what we're going to do here is that we'll solve for 4x as well. In order to do that, we'll have to subtract 6 from both sides. So we'll have a 4x equal to 18 minus 6, which is the same as 12. So the answer is C. And the topic of this question is solving equations. Question number 3. The total cost in dollars to rent a surfboard consists of 25 service fee and a $10 per hour rental fee. A person rents a surfboard for 10 hours and intends to spend a maximum of $75 to rent the surfboard. Which inequality represents this situation? So we know that there's someone who wants to buy a surfboard and he don't want to spend more than $75 for this surfboard. So we have a maximum value of $75. That will be the right side of our equation. Now we know that the surfboard consists of 25 service fee. So there's a fixed amount of $25. In addition to that, we have another amount which is $10 per hour. So we have a $10 per hour, and he says that time is represented in T. So we'll have a $25, which is a fixed amount, plus $10 multiplies the time, which is T, which is the number of hours, right? And that will be our equation. Sorry, our inequality in this case, because we cannot spend more than $75. So the answer to this question is choice D. And this question is examining inequality. It is an inequality word problem. The function g is defined as g of x equal to x to the power of 2 plus 9, for which value of x is gx equal to 25. So here we are given the value of gx, which is $25. What we're going to do is that we'll substitute that value into the function given. So we'll have $25 equal to x to the power of 2 plus 9. And what we're going to do is that we'll solve for x, because he asked us about the value of x that will lead to a value of 25 on the other side. So solving for x, we'll have an x to the power of 2 is equal to 25 minus 9. What I did is that I subtracted 9 from both sides. So the next step will be taking the square root of this value. So square root 25 minus 9 is equal to square root 16, which is equal to 4. So the value of x is equal to 4. So the answer is A. And this is a function solving question. Now, what about question number 5? Each face of a 13-sided fair is labeled with a number from 1 through 14, with a different number appearing in each face. If we rolled that fair one time, what is the probability of rolling it 2? So here, let's say we have some kind of shapes that have 14 sides, and each side is labeled a number, like 1, 2, 3, and etc. till 14. But no side is repeated more than once, right? And then he asks us what's the probability of getting a face that have number 2 labeled to it. So we only have one number of 2. We only have one face that have the number 2, right? The other 14 faces have different numbers, and we have 14 faces in total. So the answer is 1 over 14, which is choice A, right? And this question is about probability. Question 6. A printer produces posters at a constant rate of 42 posters per minute. At what rate in posters per hour does the printer produce the posters? So we produce 42 posters every minute, right? And he asks us what is the number of posters produced in 1 hour if we kept that rate on. So we know that 1 hour have 60 minutes. That means that we should multiply 42 by 60, right? Because in 1 hour we will produce 60 times the number of posters we produced in 1 minute. So we'll multiply 42 by 60. 42 multiply 60 is equal to 2520. And that's the answer for this question. And this question is about rates, in case you want to revise this chapter. Now, what about question number 7? The function f is defined by the equation f of x is equal to 7x plus 2. What is the value of f of x when x is equal to 4? So here we are given a value of x, and he wants us to find the value of y. So all we're going to do is that we'll plug in the value of x given into the function. So we'll have 7 multiplied 4 plus 2. 7 multiplied 4 is equal to 28 plus 2 is equal to 30. So 30 is the answer for this question. A teacher is creating an assignment that was 70 points. The assignment will consist of questions that was 1 point and other questions that was 3 points. So we have two different types of questions, one that was only 1 point and the other was 3 points. Which equation represents this situation, where x represents the number of 1 point questions and y represents the number of 3 point questions? So we know that the total points is equal to 70. And we know that we have two types of questions, which are x and y, all right? And we know that question x gives us only 1 point. And we know that question y gives us 3 points. So we'll label 3 as a coefficient of y. You should also notice that adding these two values, x and y, will give us the total points of the assignments the teacher had given to her questions, which is 70. So the final answer is x plus 3y equal to 70. So choice D is the correct answer. So it is an equations word problem question. Question number 9. Right triangles LMN and BQR are similar, where L and M corresponds to P and Q respectively, and angle M has a measure of 53 degrees. What is the measure of angle Q? So angle M is the one in the middle, and angle Q is also the one in the middle in the other right triangle. And we know that both triangles are similar. That means that every angle in this triangle equal to the corresponding angle in the other triangle, okay? So angle L is equal to angle B, M is equal to Q, and N is equal to R. That's the definition of similar triangles. We know that angle M is equal to 53. And we know that angle Q is the same as angle M, which is 53. So the answer is choice B. And this question is about similar triangles. Question number 10. The solution to the given system of equation is x and y. What is the value of x? In order to find the value of x, we can substitute the value of y given in the first equation to the second equation. So we'll have a 4x plus negative 3x is equal to 15. So 4x plus negative 3x is equal to x, and that's equal to 15. So the value of x is 15, which is choice C. And this question is about system of equations. Now question number 12. The graph y equal to f of x is shown, where the function f is defined by f of x equal to a x to the power of 3 plus b x to the power of 2 plus c x plus d. And a, b, c, and d are constants. For how many values of x does f of x equal to 0? So here we know that the value of y is equal to 0. And he asks us about the values of x in which the values of y are equal to 0. So how many times does this graph intersect the x-axis? That's one time here, a second one here, and the third one there. So we have 3 intersections between the graph and the x-axis. So the answer is C. And this question is about finding x and y intercepts of a function from graphs. Now question number 13. Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. Each package of party hats costs $3 and each cupcake costs $1. If Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? So first let's write down a function. Let's say that the number of party hats is equal to x and the number of cupcakes is equal to y. And the total money she spent both on the number of x and number of y, which are party hats and cupcakes, is equal to 71. So we'll have a 71 equal to the cost of the number of party hats, which is x, and each party hats cost us $3, so we'll put 3 as a coefficient of x, and then we will add that to the number of cupcakes, multiply the cost of each cupcake. The cost is equal to $1, so we don't really have to write any coefficient to y. Now, he said that Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats. So the value of x is equal to 10. So the function now is 71 equal to 3 multiply 10 plus y. What I did is that I plugged in the value of x into the function given. And he asks us about the number of cupcakes she bought, which is y. So all we're gonna do now is solve for y. So y will be equal to 71 minus 3 multiply 10. 71 minus 3 multiplied 10 is equal to 40. So y is equal to 40. The number of cupcakes she bought, is equal to 41, because 71 minus 3 multiplied 10 is equal to 30, and that's 41 cupcakes. And this is an equation or the problem. Question 14. What is one of the solutions to the given equation? So we can do that using factoring. So first, we need to find two values that have a product of negative 24 and a sum of 10. Two values that have a product of negative 24 and a sum of 10 will turn out to be a positive 12 and a negative 2. 12 multiplied negative 2 is equal to negative 24, and if we add them up, we'll get a positive 10. So now the factors of our quadratic function is x plus 12 and x minus 2. So if we solve for x, we'll get one solution that's equal to negative 12 and another solution that's equal to 2. So the answer for this question is 2. This question is about finding solutions of quadratic functions. Question number 15. Bacteria are growing in a liquid growth medium, and there were 300,000 cells during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many cells per milliliter will there be after 15 hours of the initial observation? So in this situation, we have an exponential growth. So we need to write an exponential function, which is y equal to a multiply p to the power of x. So here we want to find the value of y, but first we need to know the value of a, b, and x. The value of a is the initial value of bacteria, which is 300,000 in this case. And the value of b is the value or the rate at which the initial value decrease or increase. And he told us that the number of cells doubles. That means it increased by 2. It multiplies by 2 every 3 hours. So the value of b or the rate is equal to 2. Now what about x? The value of x in this question is represented by the time every 3 hours. So the time, which is t over 3, is equal to the value of x. So what is the value of t? T here is equal to 15 hours. So x is equal to 15 over 3. Now we should plug in these values into the function here. So y will equal to 300,000 multiply 2 to the power of 15 over 3, which is equal to 5. This is equal to 9,600,000, which is choice D. And this question is about exponential growth or decay. Question number 16. Which expression is equivalent to 6x to the power of 8 multiply y to the power of 2 plus 12x to the power of 2 multiply y to the power of 2? So what we're going to do here is that we'll factor or take the least common multiple of this expression. The least common multiple of 6 and 12 is equal to 6. And the least common multiple of x to the power of 8 and x to the power of 2 is x to the power of 2. And the least common multiple of y to the power of 2 and y to the power of 2 is just y to the power of 2. Taking these as factors, we'll be left with x to the power of 6 plus 2 multiply nothing, just 2. So the answer for this question is choice C. And this question is about expressions. Question number 17. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is equal to 3,934. The equation, this one here, represents this situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? So this is the value of x, and you should notice that the coefficient of the value of x is equal to 2. And the neighborhood consists of 2 types of trees or areas that contains trees, which is the park and the residential area. And the number 2 is equal to the number of hectares. So x is equal to the number of trees in 1 hectare of the park. So x is the average number of trees per hectare in the park, which is choice A. And that question is about interpreting linear models. This is a chapter in SAT Panda Prep if you want to go and revise or solve such questions. Now, what about question number 18? The graph shows the relationship between the numbers of shares of stock company A and the number of shares of stock company P that Simon can purchase. Which equation should represent this relationship? So in order to find the linear functions that expresses this graph drawn here, we can find the y and the x-intercepts. So we have a y-intercept of 40 and an x-intercept of 60. Now let's go back to the choices and check every y and x-intercept and find out which choice fits with a y-intercept of 40 and an x-intercept of 60. Let's start with choice A. Choice A has a y-intercept of 12, so that's an incorrect answer. What about choice B? In order to find the y-intercept of choice B, we're going to plug in value of x equal to 0. So this will cancel out. And then we'll solve for y by dividing by 12 on both sides. So y will equal to 480 divided by 12, which is 40. So the y-intercept of this function is correct. It is the same as the graph above. Now, what about the x-intercept? In order to find the x-intercept, we're going to plug in the values of y by 0, and then we will divide by 8 in both sides. So we'll have a 480 divided by 8, which is equal to 60. So the x-intercept is equal to 60. So choice P is a correct answer to this question. You can revise linear functions in case you found difficulty solving such questions. Now, what about question number 19? Circle A has a radius of 3n and circle B has a radius of 129n, and n is a positive constant. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A. So, area of B is denoted as a capital B over area of A will give us the ratio between P and A, or in other words, it gave us the answer for this question. But what is the area of P and A? The area of any circle, area of circle is equal to by r square, and r is the radius. Here we know that the radius, the circle P, is equal to 129n. So what we're gonna do is that we'll plug in this radius into the function. So we'll have a 129n all to the power of 2 multiply pi. We'll do the same with the area of the second circle. So we'll have a 3n all to the power of 2 multiply pi. And then we divide. By over by will just cancel out. 129n to the power of 2 is the same as 129 to the power of 2 multiply n to the power of 2. And 3n to the power of 2 is equal to 3 to the power of 2 multiply n to the power of 2. N to the power of 2 and n to the power of 2 will cancel out, so we'll be left with 129 to the power of 2 over 3 to the power of 2. Solving that using calculator, we will have 1849. So the answer for this question is D. The area of circle B is 1849 times bigger than the area of circle A. And in case you found a difficulty solving such questions, I recommend you revise the circles chapter in Banda, as well as the ratio and proportion chapter. Question 20. The frequency table summarizes 57 data values in the data set. What is the maximum data value in the data set? So you just check the data values column and find the greatest number. The greatest number is equal to 14, so the answer is 14. Question 21. A circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2 and 4 and 2 and 14. An equation of this circle is the following one, and r is a positive constant. What is the value for r? So you should know that r here is equal to the radius, and so that he wants the radius of a circle, and you're given endpoints of a diameter of the circle, and the endpoints are 2 and 4 and 2 and 14. So what you need to do here is that to find the length of this diameter. So let's say that's the xy plane, and that's point 2 and 4, and that's point 2 and 14. And you need to find the length between these 2 points. So in order to do that, we'll subtract 14 by 4. So we'll have a diameter equal to 10. You should also know that radius is half the diameter. So r is equal to half multiply 10, which is 5. So the answer for this question is 5. You can also revise the circles chapter in case you find some hardship solving such questions. Question number 22. The measure of angle r is 2 pi over 3 radians, and the measure of angle t is 5 pi over 12 radians greater than the measure of angle r. What is the measure of angle t in degrees? So t is equal to 5 pi over 12 plus 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is the value of r, and 5 pi over 12 is how much greater t is than r. So he wants the values in degrees. So what we're going to do here, we will substitute the value of pi by 180, because pi is equal to 180 degrees, right? So we'll have a 5 multiply 180 over 12 plus 2 multiply 180 over 3, and that's equal to t. You can solve that using a calculator. We will have a 195 degrees. So the answer for this question is C. And this question is about angles, radians, degrees, and revolutions. It's a full chapter. You can go and revise it in case you find some problems solving such questions. Now, question number 23. A certain town has an area of 4.36 square miles. What is the area in square yards of this town? So, and we're given that 1 mile is equal to 1760 yards. So the first step here is finding how many miles to the power of 2 equal in yards. A mile to the power of 2 is equal to 176 yards to the power of 2. So 1760 to the power of 2 is equal to 3. It's a big number, just let me write it down. Is equal to about 3 million square yards. And we know that the town has an area of 4.36 square miles, right? So that's only 1 mile. Okay, that's mile, and that's yards, and that's only 1 mile. What about 4.36 miles? What would that equal in yards? Let's say x. What we're gonna do here is that we will cross multiply. So x will equal to 3 million multiply 4.36, which is the same as 13 million and about 500,000 yards to the power of 2. So the answer for this question is letter D. For line H, the table shows 3 values of x and the corresponding values of y. Line K is a result of translating h down 5 units in the xy plane. What is the x-intercept of line K? So, the first step here is finding the linear function of this data. Okay, we can do that by finding the slope first by applying the slope rule, which is y1 minus y2 over, sorry, it is actually y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It won't really matter, but anyway, y2, let's say 160 minus y1, which is 130, over x2, which is 23, minus 18, which is x1. So 160 minus 130 is equal to 30, and 23 minus 18 is equal to 5. So 30 divided by 5 is equal to 6. So the slope is equal to 6. We know that a linear function is the same as y equal to mx plus b, where m is the slope. So now we have a y equal to 6x plus p. Now what about the value of p? P is a y-intercept of a given function. In order to know the y-intercept of a function, we can take any of these 3 points here. Let's take the last point, which is 26 and 178, and that's the x and that's the y, and then we will plug in these values into the function we know. So y, which is 178, will equal to 6 multiplied 26 plus p. Solving for p will have a 178 minus 6 multiplied 26. So p, or the y-intercept of this function, will equal to the linear function that represents this data here is y equal to 6x plus 22. Now what about line k? Line k is a result of translating this function 5 units down. So we'll subtract 5 from this function. We'll subtract 5 here. So we'll have a y equal to 6x plus 17. Let me rewrite that. Y equals 6x plus 17. And that's the linear function of k, of line k. Now, what he needs us to find is the x-intercept of line k. The point of the x-intercept have a y value which is equal to 0. So what we're going to do is that we'll plug in the value of y equal to 0 into the function we got, and then we'll solve for x. So we'll have a 0 equal to 6x plus 17. We will subtract 17 from both sides, so we will have negative 17 equal to 6x. So x will equal to negative 17 over 6. So the only choice that have a negative 17 over 6 in the x values is choice D. Question number 25. In the xy plane, the graph of the equation y equal to negative x to the power of 2 plus x plus 9x minus 100 intersects the line y equals c at exactly 1 point. What is the value of c? Here he told us that there is a quadratic function that intersects a horizontal line, which is y equal to c, at exactly 1 point. So let me draw an xy plane. Let's say that's our xy plane, and that's our horizontal line here. That one is y equals c. Okay, and the quadratic function intersects that line at exactly 1 point, which is this point here. So you should notice that this point is actually the vertex of this quadratic function. You should also know that a vertex is just a point on the xy plane, and this point have an x and a y value. In this particular question, he wants us to find the value of y of the vertex point of the quadratic function. So the next step is finding the vertex of this function. And in order to do that, we need to find the x coordinate first and then the y coordinate. So let's start with the x coordinate. In order to find the x coordinate of the vertex of any quadratic function, you should apply a simple rule, which is negative b over 2 multiply a, where b is a coefficient of x, which is 9, and a is a coefficient of x to the power of 2, which is negative 1. The value of the x coordinate of the quadratic function vertex is equal to negative 9 over 2 multiply negative 1, which is the same as 9 over 2, and this is the value of x of our vertex. Now, how can we find the value of y? You should notice that we are given a function here, right? So all we can do is that we'll plug in the values of x into the function given and find the value of y. So plug in 9 over 2 into the function, we'll have a negative multiply 9 over 2 to the power of 2 plus 9 multiply 9 over 2 minus 100, which is the same as negative 319 over 4. So choice C is the correct answer. Now, what about question number 26? For each real number r, which of the following points lies on the graph of each equation in the xy plane for the given system? So here you are given a system of equations, and you're asked to find an xy coordinate that lies on this system of equation. So first, let's analyze this system of equation given. You should notice that this system of equations, the second equation, is actually a multiple of 5, right, of the first equation. If we multiply the first equation by 5, we will get a 10x. 5 multiplied 2x is equal to 10x, and 5 multiplied 3y is equal to 15y, and 5 multiplied 7 is equal to 35. So as you can see, it is the same equation here. We have the same equation, so they are respectively the same functions as well. So the next step is to find the value the xy coordinate that fits in this equation given. But here you are not just given values of x and y immediately. So what you're going to do here is that you can substitute the value of r by any number. Let's say r is equal to 5. And then what you're going to do is that you will plug in the value of r, which is 5, into the choices to get the values of x and y. So let's do that with choice A. So in the first choice we'll have a 5 over 5 plus 7. That's the x coordinate, and negative 5 over 5 plus 35. So in the x coordinate we'll have an 8, and in the y coordinate we'll have a positive 34. Next step is plugging in these values of x and y, this one we got here, into any of these two functions. Let's take the first one. So we'll have a 2 multiply 8 plus 3 multiply 34, and if this value was equal to 7, then this will be our correct answer. But unfortunately that's somewhere around 110. So the A is not, actually it is 118 exactly. So A is not our correct answer. We need a value that's equal to 7. Now let's check choice B. We'll do the same steps exactly. We'll plug in the value of r, which is 5, into the function. So we will have a 3 multiply 5 over 2 plus 7 over 2 and 5. So we will have a value of x that's equal to 3 multiply 5 is equal to 15. So we will have a negative 15 over 2 plus 7 over 2, that's equal to negative 8 over 2. That's the x value of this point, and the y value is 5. Next step is plugging that into the first equation given. So we will have a 2 multiply negative 8 over 2 plus 3 multiply 5. A 2 multiply negative 8 over 2 is equal to negative 16 over 2, and 3 multiply 5 is equal to positive 15. Negative 16 over 2 is equal to negative 8 plus 15 is equal to 7. So as you can see, these values got us the correct outcome, which is 7. So answer B is a correct answer. Now what about question number 27? The perimeter of an equilateral triangle is equal to 624 centimeters. The height of this triangle is equal to k root 3. Where k is a constant. What is the value of k? So first, you should know what is an equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle is a triangle that have 3 sides that are equal as well as 3 angles that are equal. So let's draw an equilateral triangle. Yeah. So I try my best to make it look like an equilateral triangle. So here, all 3 angles are equal. So this angle is equal to 60. This one is equal to 60 as well. And that one is equal to 60. And all of the 3 sides of this triangle are equal. Now, it is given that the perimeter of a triangle is equal to this value here, and the perimeter is equal to the the sum of all the three sides of this triangle. So let's say that's side x and that's y and that's z. So x plus y plus z is equal to 6, 2, 4, right? And x is equal to y and y is equal to z, because all of these sides are actually equal to each other. So to find the value of each of these sides, all you gotta do is that you should divide 624, which is a perimeter, by 3 to get the value of each of these sides. So 624 divided by 3 is equal to 208. So let me clear that. I write down 208. Now, what about the height of the triangle? The height of the triangle is a perpendicular line from any side. Let me choose another line. Yeah. The height of a triangle is a perpendicular line drawn from the midpoint of any segment of any side of this triangle that bisects the opposite angle. So that's a midpoint of this side, okay? So a midpoint means that we cut this segment into half. So this one is equal to 104 and this one is equal to 104. And this line is a perpendicular bisector. So this is equal to a right angle, 90 degrees angle, and this one as well is a 90 degrees angle. So this line here I just draw is equal to the height. Now you should notice that we have constructed a right triangle inside our equilateral triangle. Two right triangles actually. That's the first one and that's the second one. So now we can find the height of this equilateral triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem, which says that the hypotenuse to the power of 2 is equal to the base to the power of 2 plus the height, let's say a. The height is a to the power of 2. So what we're gonna do here is that we need to solve for a. Let me redenote that one. So let's say the height, or the value we need to know, is equal to a, okay? So, and the hypotenuse is equal to 208, which is the longest side in a right triangle, and the base is equal to 104. So what we're gonna do here is that we need to solve for a. So we will solve for a by subtracting b to the power of 2 in both sides. So we will have h to the power of 2 minus b to the power of 2 is equal to a to the power of 2. Next, we can take the square root of both sides. So the square root will cancel with the power. So we will have a equal to square root h to the power of 2 minus b to the power of 2. As I said, the value of h is 208 and the value of b is 104. So a is equal to square root 208 to the power of 2 minus 104 to the power of 2. But we are not done yet, okay? He said here that he wants the value of k. He says that the height is equal to k to the root 3, multiply root 3, but he don't want the value of the height, he only wants the value of k. So you should notice that a is equal to k root 3, because a is the height. So we know the value of a now. The value of a is square root 208 to the power of 2 minus 104 to the power of 2. And that's equal to k root 3. Now all we're gonna do is that we will divide by root 3 to both sides. So we will have k equal to root 208 to the power of 2 minus 104 to the power of 2 over root 3, and that will equal to 104. So the value of k and the answer to this question is equal to 104. And in order to solve this question, you need to revise the triangle chapter in Banda Mass Prep. Now let's start with the second module. So question number 1. Tilly earns P dollars for every W hours of work. Which expression represents the amount of money in dollars Tilly earns for 39 W hours of work? So when Tilly works W hours, she gets P dollars. What if we multiply W by 39? If we multiply W by 39, we need to multiply the amount of money she gained by 39 as well. So we'll have a 39p. So the answer for this question is A. And I think that's a ratios question. Second question. For a training program, Juan rides his bike at an average rate of 5.7 minutes per mile. Which function models the number of minutes it will take Juan to ride X miles at this rate? So here you are given the slope of the function, which is the rate at which Juan rides the bikes in minutes per mile. So for every mile, Juan takes 5.7 minutes. So we need a function that represents this situation. And as we are given the rate here, that's equal to the slope. So which one of these questions represents the slope of a function? Answer B and answer C can be immediately eliminated because in these functions the slope is equal to 1, while the slope given in the question is equal to 5.7. So the only answers that have a slope of 5.7 is answer D. Okay, answer A has a slope of 1 over 5.7, which is incorrect. The correct answer is D. Now, what about question number 3? The solution to the given system of equations is x and y. What is the value of y? So there's two ways we can solve this question. One is by substitution and the other one is by elimination. In this question, I'm going to use elimination because all you're going to do is that you should add these two equations given. Adding these two equations will cancel out the values of x because 3x plus negative 3x is equal to 0. So we'll be left with y, and then we will add 12 and negative 6 on the other side. So 12 plus negative 6 is equal to 6. So y is equal to 6. So the answer for this question is choice B. And this is a system of equation problem. Question number 4. The equation gives the speed s in miles per hour of a certain car t seconds after it began to accelerate. What is the speed in miles per hour of a car 5 seconds after it began to accelerate? So here we are given a function and we are given the values of x, or the values of time. In this case, it's represented in t. Okay, so all we're going to do is that we'll plug in the time given into the function and then solve for s. So s is equal to 40 plus 3 multiply 5. 3 multiply 5 is equal to 15 plus 40, and that's equal to 55. So the answer is choice D. And this is an equations word problem question. Now, what about question number 5? For the right triangle shown, A is equal to 4, B is equal to 5. Which expression represents the value of C? So we know that this triangle is a right triangle, and we are given the values of two sides and asked to find the value of the third side, which turns out to be the hypotenuse, which is the long side of this triangle. Now, in this case, we should use the Pythagorean theorem to find the value of the hypotenuse, which is c to the power of 2 equal to a to the power of 2 plus b to the power of 2. Now, solving for c, we will have c is equal to square root a to the power of 2 plus b to the power of 2. So all we're going to do next is that we'll plug in the values of a and b into the function. So we'll have a c equal to root 4 to the power of 2 plus 5 to the power of 2. You don't have to complete calculating because the answer is right in front of us, which is choice D. This is a triangle's Pythagorean theorem question. Now, what about question number 6? What is the solution to the given equation? So all we're going to do here is that we'll solve for x. So we'll subtract by 5 in both sides, so we'll have a 4x equal to 160, and then we'll divide by 4. 160 divided by 4 is equal to 40. So the answer for this question is 40, and that's an equation solving question. What about question number 7? The x-intercept of the graph is x and 0. What is the value of x? So here is our graph. And you should notice that this is a quadratic function graph, but it's not really an important thing to care about. What we need to care about is the point at which this graph y value is equal to 0. And this is where the y values of this graph is equal to 0. So exactly, this point is a point of intersection. So what is the x values of this point? The x values of this point, as you can see, is something between 6 and 8, which is 7. So the answer for this question is x equal to 7. And this is an analyzing graphs question. I won't really say it's a quadratic functions question, because we don't need to know anything about quadratic functions to solve this question. So it is analyzing graphs. Now, what about question number 8? The function f is defined by f of x equal to 1 over 10x minus 2. What is the y-intercept of the graph of y equal to f of x in the xy plane? So once you see y-intercept, you should know that the values of x is equal to 0, because as the y-intercept, the x value is equal to 0. So what we're going to do here to know the value of f of x as the y-intercept is that we should plug in the values of zeros into the function. So we will have a 1 over 10 multiplied 0 minus 2. 1 over 10 multiplied 0 is just 0, so we're left with negative 2. So the y-coordinate of the y-intercept is equal to negative 2. So the answer for this question is choice B. Now, what about question number 9? The function f is defined by f of x equal to 7x to the power of 3. In the xy plane, the graph of y is equal to gx is a result of shifting the graph of y equal f of x down 2 units. Which equation defines the function g? So, gx is the same as shifting f of x 2 units down. So what we're going to do is that we'll subtract the function f of x by negative 2. Now, the next step is substituting the value of f of x, which is 7x to the power of 3. So g of x, or the function g, is equal to 7x to the power of 3 minus 2, which is answer D. And this is a functions translation question. Question number 10. Which ordered pair is a solution to the given system of equations? So first, let's have a look on our system of equation. You should notice that if you multiply the system of equation by itself, the first equation in the system by itself, you will get the second equation in the system. X plus 7 to the power of 2, it is the same as the one here, and 10 to the power of 2 is equal to y. So 10 to the power of 2 is equal to y. 10 to the power of 2 is equal to 100. So we know the value of y now. The value of y is equal to 100. Now, which of these choices have a y value that's equal to 100? It is choice A. So A is a correct answer. And this is a system of equations problem. Now, what about question number 11? Which expression is equivalent to 7x to the power of 3 plus 7x minus 3x to the power of 3 minus 3x? So let's subtract like terms. 7x to the power of 3 minus 3x to the power of 3 is equal to x to the power of 3. And 7x minus negative 3x, 7x minus negative 3x is equal to 7x plus 3x, because both negative signs will turn out to be a positive sign. So 7x plus 3x is equal to 10x. So the final answer is x to the power of 3 plus 10 multiply x, which is choice A. And this is an adding and subtracting expressions question. Question number 12. The function b is defined by b of n equal to 7n to the power of 3. What is the value of n when p of n is equal to 56? So here we are given the values of y, and we are asked to find the values of x, or the values of n in this case. So 56 is equal to 7n to the power of 3. Now all we're going to do is that we solve for n. First we divide by 7 in both sides, so we will have 56 divided by 7 equal to n power 3. 56 divided by 7 is equal to 8. So 8 is equal to n power 3. Next step is taking the cubic root of each side. So the cubic root of 8 is equal to 2. If we factor 8, we'll have a 2 and 4. And 4 is equal to 2 multiply 2. So we have 3 values of 2. So the cubic root of 8 is equal to 2. So the answer is choice A. Now what about question number 13? In the figure shown, line C intersects parallel lines S and T. What is the value of x? First thing you should notice is that this angle here is equal to x as well, because these two angles are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent because of the definition of parallel lines intersected by a transversal. Because S and T are parallel lines and C is a transversal that intersects these two parallel lines, these two angles here are congruent. The next thing you should notice is that this whole angle here, which is 110 plus x, let me write it down, 110 plus x is equal to 180 degrees, because we know that T is a line and we know that the angle formed by a line is equal to 180 degrees. So solving for x, we will have x equal to 70 degrees. So the answer for this question is 70. And this is an angles question. You can revise this chapter from the Banda book. Question 14. A list of 10 data values is shown. What is the mean of these data values? So here he wants the average. The average is equal to the sum of all these values, the sum of values over the number of values. So the sum of values is equal to 6 plus 8 plus 16 plus 4 plus 17 plus 26 plus 8 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And this sum of these values should be divided by the number of the values, which is 10. So we will divide this value by 10. So the final answer for this question is equal to 10. So the mean of this data set is equal to 10. And this is an statistics question. Now what about question number 15? The equation E of t is equal to 5 multiply 1.8 to the power of t gives the estimated number of employees at a restaurant, where t is the number of years since the restaurant opened. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the number 5 in this context? First, you should notice that this question is expressing a exponential function. So 5 multiply 1.8 to the power of t, that's an exponential function. And we know that an exponential function is the same as y equal to a multiply p to the power of x, where a is the initial value. So as you can see, the number 5 is corresponding to a. So 5 is the initial value of employees when the restaurant opened, and that's choice A. So choice A is the correct answer for this question. And this question is examining exponential functions. Now, what about question number 16? What is the minimum value of the given function? Whenever he asks you about the minimum or the maximum value of a quadratic function, so we need to find the vertex. So how can we find the x value of the vertex? The x value of the vertex is equal to negative b over 2a. So what is b in this equation? This equation could be written as x plus 0 multiply x, 0 multiply x plus 55. B is a coefficient of x, so b is equal to 0. So whatever the value of a is, in this case it is 1 anyway, the answer will be equal to 0. So the value of x of the vertex, the x coordinate of the vertex, is equal to 0. Now what about the y value? And that will be our answer. To find the y value of the vertex point, we can plug in the x value into the function given. So we will have y equal to 0 to the power of 2 plus 55. 0 to the power of 2 is just 0, and y is equal to 55. So the answer is choice B. And this is a quadratics question. Number 17. Each year, the value of an investment increases by 0.49% of its value the previous year. Which of the following functions best models how the value of the investment changes over time? In this question, he is examining the difference, or he wants you to identify the difference between an exponential and linear growth or decay. So first, let's determine whether this is a growth or a decay. So in this question, the function increases. So we will eliminate a decreasing exponential and a decreasing linear functions. Now identify whether it is an exponential or a linear function. He said that the value increases by a certain percent from the previous year. So for example, if the first year, let's choose another easier value. Let's say it increased by 50% every year, right? So year 1 it was 1, year 2 is equal to 1.5, year 3 is equal to 2.25. What happens here is that we increase by 50% every year. So as you can see, the differences between these three values, between these 3 years, is not the same. So the slope is changing. You can see if we subtract these two values, we'll have a 0.5, right? If we subtracted 1.5 from 2.25, we will have a 0.75. As you can see, the rate at which the function increases is not constant. So we do not have a linear function here. We have an exponential function. So choice C is the correct answer. Now, what about question number 18? The population of Greenville increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016. If the 2016 population is k times the population of 2015, what is the value of k? We will put 100 over 100. And then we will focus on the numerator. Here he said that the value of Greenville increased, so we will add a positive sign. By 7%, so we will add a 7. And then we'll plug in that just in our calculator, and we will have a 1.07. So the value of k is equal to a 1.07. So the answer for this question is C. Question number 19. Which expression is equivalent to a to the power of 11 over 12? So the first step here is to have a look at the choices first. You can see that the choices is written in the radical form. So let's transform this one from an exponential form to the radical form. So to change this expression from exponential to radical, we will move the denominator out above the radical, so we'll have a radical of 12. And we'll put a to the power of 11 inside the radical. However, if we had a look on our choices, we will not see the answer. And that's because he powered every value here by 2. If we power 12 by 2, we will have a 144. And if we powered 11 by 2, we will have a 132. So the answer for this question is choice B. And this is an exponents question. Now what about question number 20? An event planner is planning a party It costs the event planner a one-time fee of $35 to rent the venue and $10.25 per attendee. The event planner has a budget of $200. What is the greatest number of attendees possible without exceeding the budget? So he cannot spend more than $200, and he paid a one-time fee of 35. That's a constant value. So we'll write down 35. And then he will have to pay $10.25 for every attendee. So we will have a 10.25 multiplies the number of attendees, which is X. So here he wants us to find the greatest possible value of X. What we're gonna do is that we will solve for X. We'll subtract by 35. So we will have 165 equal to 10.25 multiply X. Then we will divide by 10.25 in both sides. So X will equal to 16.09. However, the greatest value or the greatest number of attendees is just equal to 16, because we cannot get more than 16 attendees, and in the same time we cannot just split an attendee because that's a person. Okay, so we cannot take half a person into a party, you know. So the greatest number is equal to 16, because the other value, the second value after 16, is equal to 17, and if we plug in 17 into this equation here, we'll get a value that's greater than 200. And in this case the answer won't be correct, because he said he has a budget of 200. That means he cannot spend more than 200. So 16 is the answer for this question. Now what about question number 21? If 4x minus 4 is equal to 112, what is the possible value of x minus 1? So a simple trick we can do here is that we can divide by 4. So if we divide by 4, the left side will be x minus 1, which is the value he wants us to get. And if we divide 112 by 4, we'll have a 28. So the answer is equal to 28. Now, what about question number 22? A cube has an edge length of 68 inches. A solid sphere with a radius of 34 inches is inside the cube, such that the sphere touches the center of each face of the cube. To the nearest cubic inch, what is the volume of the space in the cube not taken by the sphere? We will subtract the volume of the cube by the volume of the sphere. So what is the volume of a cube? A volume of a cube is equal to S to the power of 3, where S is the value of the side, which is 68 here. Now what about the volume of a sphere? A volume of a sphere is equal to 4 over 3 multiply the radius to the power of 3. The radius is equal to 34 inches. So the next step is plugging in the values given into the function or the equation we have. So 68 to the power of 3 minus 4 over 3 multiply 34 to the power of 3 multiply pi. So the answer will be 149,795.78, which could be rounded to 149,796. So choice A is the correct answer for this question. Now what about question number 23? What is the diameter of the circle in the xy plane with an equation of x minus 5 to the power of 2 plus y minus 3 to the power of 2 plus is equal to 16? So the diameter of the circle is equal to twice the radius of that circle. And you should know that the equation of the circle is the same as x minus k to the power of 2 plus y minus h to the power of 2 is equal to r to the power of 2. So 16 is equal to r to the power of 2, where r is the radius. So r to the power of 2 is equal to 16. Solving for r, we will have an r equal to 4. So the radius of this circle is equal to 4. Now what about the diameter? The diameter is equal to twice the radius. So we'll multiply 2 by 4. So the answer will be equal to 8. So the diameter of this circle is equal to 8. So answer B is the correct answer. What about question number 24? For the exponential function f, the value of f of 1 is k, where k is a constant. Which of the following equivalent forms of the function f shows the value of k as the coefficient or the base? You should notice that all the choices are given in an exponential function form, which is y equal to a multiply p to the power of x. What we need to do is that we need to find a function that have an exponential that's equal to 0. Because in this case, in this particular case, we will have a y equal to a multiply 1. Because p to the power of whatever exponential it is, let's say it is equal to t, for example, we need a value of t that's equal to 0, right? So b to the power of t should be equal to 1, and the only way to have this value, the only way to have a 1 is that t should be equal to 0. So b to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So what we really need to find is an exponential value equal to 0 when we plug in the value of x given, which is 1. So let's plug in the value of x given in the first choice. So we'll have an 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. So choice A is incorrect. We can check that out again if we plugged in the value of 1 into the function and then solve it for y. If we did that, we will not find the value of y as a constant. The meaning of finding the value of y as a constant or coefficient, that means it should be written here. Whether it's 50, 1.6 or 1, it should be a given value in the original function. So let's complete checking. Now if we plug in the value of 1 into this function here, we'll have a 1. Now indeed 80 multiply 1.6 is not equal to 80 and is not equal to 1.6. So answer B is wrong because we don't have a value of y that is a constant or a coefficient. Now what about C? If we plugged in 1 into the exponential, we will have a 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0. That's what we are looking for, because a 128 multiply 1.6 to the power of 0 is the same as 128 multiply 1, because 1.6 to the power of 0 is equal to 1, and 128 multiply 1 is equal to 128. And it turns out that 128 is written here as a constant. So answer C is the correct answer. Now what about question number 25? Our model estimates that at the end of each year from 2015 to 2020, the number of squirrels in a population was 150% more than the number of squirrels in the population at the end of the previous year. The model estimates that at the end of 2016 there were 180 squirrels in the population. Which of the following equations represents this model, where n is the estimated number of squirrels in population t years after the end of 2015. Here we know that this equation wants us to construct an exponential function. 180 is the number of squirrels 1 year after 115. 115 is equal to a t value which is equal to 0. 116 is 1 year later, so we have a t value that's equal to 1. So when t is equal to 1, y, or n in this case, n is equal to 180. Now what we're going to do is that we can plug in the value of 1 into the function given and find which choices of these 4 choices will get us a value of n that's equal to 180. So let's check the first choice. We'll have a 72 multiply 1.5 to the power of 1, which is equal to 108. So answer A is incorrect. Now what about answer P? Answer P will have a value of 180, so answer P is correct. Now what about question number 26? In the given pair of equations A and B are constants. The graph of this pair of equations in the xy plane is a pair of perpendicular lines. Which of the following pair of equations also represent a perpendicular lines. So first let's understand what's the relationship between perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines, when they intersect, they form a right angles, and due to that their slopes are negative reciprocal of each other. So let's say this line here, line A, and that is line P. If the slope of line A is equal to 1 over 3, for example, that means the slope of line P is equal to negative 3 over 1, which is the same as negative 3. As you can see, what I did is that I moved 3 up and 1 down, and then I multiplied by a negative sign. Let's get back to our question. The first step here is to find the values of A and B, and we can do that by finding the slopes of these two equations, given that these lines are perpendicular. These equations are perpendicular. So let's find the slope of the first equation. First step, we'll move x to the other side, so we'll have a negative 5x, and then we'll divide by 7. So we'll have a negative 5x over 7x. So the slope is negative 5 over 7. What is the negative reciprocal of this value? As I told you, we'll move negative 5 down, 7 up, and then we'll multiply by negative sign. So we will have a negative 7 over negative 5. Now let's find the slope of the second equation. You should know that the slope of the second equation is equal to these values here. What we're gonna do is that we'll move a to the other side, so we'll have a negative a x, and then we'll move b, we'll divide by b, so we'll have a negative ax over b. So a negative ax over b has a slope of a negative a over b, and this is equal to negative 7 over negative 5. So what is the value of b? The value of b is negative 5, so b is equal to negative 5, and the value of a is 7, because we already have a negative sign, so a is equal to 7. Now let me clear up some space. We know that b is equal to negative 5 and a is equal to 7. Now let's check out our choices. What is the slope of this function? The slope of this function is negative 10 over 7. We'll move 10 to the other side, so it'll be a negative 10. We'll divide by 7. So the slope is negative 10 over 7. Now what about the slope of the other function? The slope of the other function is negative a over negative 2p. Now let's plug in the values. We will have a negative 7 over a negative 2 multiply negative 5. So the final answer will be a negative 7 over 10. Is negative 7 over 10 the negative reciprocal of negative 10 over 7? Let's move 10 down and 7 up, and then multiply by negative sign. If we move 10 down, we'll have a negative 10 in the denominator, and if we move 7 up, we will have 7 in the denominator, and if we multiply by negative, we will have a negative 7 over 10 over negative 10, which is 7 over 10. However, the slope of the perpendicular line should be negative 7 over 10. So this answer is incorrect. Now, what about choice B? We'll do the same steps, and we actually have the same slope here, which is negative 10 over 7. Let's find the negative reciprocal of this slope. The negative reciprocal of this slope is negative 7 over negative 10, which is 7 over 10. Now, what about the slope of the second equation? The slope of the second equation is equal to negative a over 2b. I moved a to the other side, so we have a negative a, and then I divide by 2p. So the slope is negative a over 2p. We know that the value of a is equal to 7, and the value of b is equal to -5. So we will plug in these values into the expression we have. So we will have a -7 over 2 multiply -5. So that's equal to -7 over -10, which is 7 over 10. As you can see, the negative reciprocal of the slope of the first equation is equal to the slope of the second equation. So choice B is a correct answer for this question. What about question number 27? In the given equation, C is a constant. The equation has no real solution, and C is greater than n. What is the least possible value for n? B to the power of 2 minus 4 multiply A multiply C. Now we know if b to the power of 2 minus 4 multiply A multiply C is less than 0, then the equation do not have real solution, and that's the case here. So this should be less than 0. Now let's plug in the values of b, a, and c. b is a coefficient of x, which is equal to -34, and a is a coefficient of x to the power of 2, which is 1, and c is the values that we need to know. Now let's solve for c. 34 power 2 is equal to 1156. -4 multiply 1 is -4, and -4 multiply c is equal to -4c, and that should be less than 0. So we need a value for multiply c that's greater than 1156. So what we're gonna do is that we will divide 1156 by 4. So 1156 divided by 4 is equal to 289. So 289 is the answer for this question.